And businesses from coming to the downtown?
Well, I mean, it's complicated, but you know, you got a small population of 14,000, and it's the businesses have opened up or have been more of people that have moved here from out of town, and you got to think out of the box. If you can't come here thinking or open a business thinking I'm gonna make a killing, you hope you make a living. You hope you pay the bills. My wife's had 3 retail stores here, and it is a challenge. And if you think, well, I got this many friends, they're gonna buy me. Well, they're gonna buy, but
they can only buy so much.
Well, yeah, and people are gonna shop out of town. They're gonna shop Amazon, you know. So if somebody came here and says, Bubba, we want to open a business. I say, okay, what kind of business? They say a bookstore. I'd say, well, you got a lot stacked against you. It probably ain't going to happen. And they say, well, why? You got to teach people to read? I said, no. First, in today's society, you got to teach people to want to read. That's my philosophy. That's Bubbaism.
I'm with you.
And then the other thing is, you can open up a rare bookstore. Yes, you can do great. But you can't go compete with Books A Million, Amazon, everything like that. But a rare bookstore, they'll search from anywhere around the world to find that one book that you have. They don't care where you are. And they're not looking for a discount. So you have to be unique in what you sell. Heat and pecans. Go out to Heat Pecans. A great little pecans.
You said Heat Pecan?
Heaton, Heaton.
Okay.
And they were on Oprah's pick last year. I mean, family-run business, made it. You know, we got to think unique. You can't think cookie cutter here and compete with outside sources. You know, and what does that look like? I don't know, but you know, that's what I see. And the Hambone Gallery, art gallery, right around the corner, 2 blocks down.
I saw it. Because doesn't it have in the window? Right outside, isn't there a piano out there? Because when I was...
That might be the hostel.
No, the hostel was on the side street. Because, hold on, there's a bank on that same street?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I was. I was walking.
But it's not a bank. It was an old bank.
Gotcha.
But we bought it and turned it to a venue.
Okay.
Wedding venue. You know.
Lovely.
And if you look on the door, it says Jackson Daily Journal, and that was because of the help was filmed in there. Part of it was.
Okay.
But yes, that's it. I didn't realize he had a piano.
Yeah, it's an older piano. It's outside on the sidewalk. I don't know if they're moving it or something, but if you go by there now, it's out there.
So he came in from Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
He's a blues musician, blues artist, and he, you know, that became his studio, his residence, and his gallery. And now it's a music venue.
Okay.
On Tuesday nights. So that's, you know, talk to Stan Street, he'll tell you. I sold him that building. That was in the early days. We were trying to get people here, and we had to have unique people. I didn't need a gun shop or a pawn shop. Nothing against them.
I got you.
We had a vision that we put a loft hotel above the Yazoo Pass.
I saw that.
And we had to incubate it, you know, and there were no cars in 2000, no cars downtown. And, you know, except for maybe 4 on Yazoo Avenue, and those were the store owners. And so we just had to reprogram people, give people what they want.
Since you said you have spent the last 20 some odd years working to get downtown, and then you just told me a few years ago, there was only 4 cars downtown.
No, 23 years ago.
23. Where did the vision come from? I mean,
It's a hallucination.
you know what?
I tell you,
Indeed.
it was rough. Because people think you're crazy, and I see it. I see a vision, and and it was something. My cousin came into my office. I have an office where Cathead is. Have you been to Cathead?
Not yet.
Go to Cathead. I sold him that building. He was one of my customers back in the day, but I ran my construction company, and we had a little store there that we sold candles and things locally made just because we saw people coming in town. And in the first 2 months, the New York Times came in and did an article on our store. Had it on the cover of the Living and Art section of the New York Times. I'm going like, dang, something is happening. And things just happened. And and then when Roger Stoley, owner Cathead, when he moved here, he and I talked about a lot of different projects, and we started the Juke Joint Festival together out there in that parking lot. And there were 3 things we wanted to do. We wanted to put business in businesses and with this festival, not just have one stage where people go and have a beer sponsor or that. We wanted to put it in places like Red's, Ground Zero, wherever. And the other thing that we wanted to do is to get our local people to connect with our visitors, because we had international visitors. That wasn't the issue. But they didn't, what are they doing? And so once you get to know them, you go, oh man, you just create these bonds. And to do that, we had to make it kid friendly, to draw parents and grandparents. And then it just blew up.
Indeed.
And after 3 years, I got out to start something else. And, but it's been a long haul. And so when people come here, they say, oh guys, this place is going down. I said, no, this place is coming up. I mean, we won't ever be gentrified. And I hope not. But we are authentic and experiential. And that's what when I travel to the marketplaces, London, Frankfurt, whatever international sales, we're by far the smallest destination there, especially when it's overseas. If it's a domestic marketplace, you have a few more, but when it's over there, I really believe in getting there because I'm meeting with the tour operators, big tour operators, and they're the ones that are hands-on. The South is hot, has been for 5 years, not temperature-wise, but
Gotcha.
in the tourism market, because what they see is that they want authenticity. They want like off the beaten path. They want, that type thing. They've done New York, they've done Miami, and they'll continue to do that. But they want
something else
to get into the belly of the whale. And so with music, with Nashville, Memphis, to New Orleans, we're in the flyaway, or New Orleans, Memphis, Nashville, they're in the flyaway. And we got live blues music 7 nights a week. So not only do you hear live blues music 7 nights a week, you experience it. You get a taste of what the life is like for a blues musician.
What do you think is the best quality or best asset that you can sell about Clarksdale when you're really trying to sell somebody on this is what we have? Is it the people? Is it the music? Is it
it's
the
the
food?
people. They come for the people. They come for the music, but they come back because of the people. Once they connect with people, because they say they've never been where they've been treated so good before. Did your mama teach you that? I don't know. We just it's, to me, and I know what you're saying, but to me, it's not a sale. I'm just promoting it.
Understood.
We don't want to exploit it. It's our history, our culture, and yesterday, I don't know where it was, 60 Minutes or Sunday morning, it was about a book. I meant to write that down. And it's about like reverse migration. And I've seen that last 2 trips to Chicago because, when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, it was still the migration to go north. And so when I was up there, I felt so embraced by, a black Uber driver saying, where are you from? And I'm never shy. I say, I'm from Clarksdale, Mississippi. You're from Clarksdale? You're from the Delta? Yeah. Man, I got it. My folks came from there, or we got family down there. They love it. Mm-hmm. They want to connect. And, sorry. It's such a good feeling for me to see that healing process. We still got issues. I mean, not the issues that, we just got issues, but we're trying to work together to bring it up. For the most part, I see that, and maybe I'm blinded, but we're in this together, and that the new generation, a part of it, some of that has healed, and I see they see this as being home, and they want to connect about what was it like, a sense of what was it like, what's the summers like, what is it? What does it smell like? What's the food like, man? What's the music? And I'm so proud that they want to come back here to, you don't have to move back here, I understand. But we want to, and Chicago has been very outreaching to us. Visit Clarksdale, we're working on a big thing this year for the Blues Festival.
Good deal.
I was like, you want to work with Clarksdale? Yeah, we want to work with y'all.
Now, I heard you mention the thing about the Uber driver, and I think that's awesome. How are relationships between local blacks, whites, and I don't know what other kind of diversity you might have in terms of groups, but how are things here actually in the city among the residents?
I don't know. I don't know that I'm a good person to ask that. Now that I think
Why not? You live here.
I know, but I'm. I like to think it's good.
Okay.
I think you got to ask both sides and all kind of people, but my goal is always, and I was just not raised to see race, black, white, and it's a difficult and a delicate thing for me because I just love people, and I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. How? Well, one thing I tell you, here it is. People just got to come together. I don't think it's just like any group of people. They have cliques, and until they get out of that norm, like what we did with our guest here, with internationals, with our local, you have to bring them together on a common ground, whether it's a football game or or whatever. Our churches are almost, not 100% segregated, but almost everything. Why is that? Because they're so culturally different. It's not so much black, white, is it the music is different, the preaching is different, but I feel at home at any church. I mean, I go where I do go to church, Methodist church, but I feel at home at any church. But it's so different. You'll see, say, a black person from Chicago will come and identify more with our church than a black church because they're not used to the gospel. They're not used to that style of preaching. They have grown up in a whole different style, and that's the way I see that. But until we can just come together and have lunch and visit and just get to know each other, you're never gonna socialize.
Yeah, I think one of the things that
I don't socialize. I just go out there and live.
Look, you just talk to strangers.
You're our guest. I love that because you're here Clarksdale is our home, my home. You've come here, and so you're not a tourist. You're our guest. And so, if you were at your house, you would say, "Well, come on in." That's what we're saying. Let's have some coffee. Let's have some tea. Let's break some bread. Let's visit. That's what we're doing. That's the way I see it. I get paid to visit with you.
You know what? I got to get a job like yours, right? I'm working on it. But no, I hear you. I think so much of our challenge, and I was sharing this with some folks I had a conversation with this morning. I think part of our challenge is we don't have enough opportunities to build real relationship and trust. And we can have all sorts of conversations about how you get to relationship and trust, but I don't think the healing that we want is going to happen without relationship. I was telling them, I have a couple of girlfriends who are white women that I met when I was a student. And we just talked about this literally about 4 days ago, how it took us quite a while to go from surface level friendships to actually having real good, strong relationships where they know those things about me that I won't put on Facebook, and I know those kinds of things about them and their families. And I think it takes some work, and I don't know how you speed that kind of process up. But by the same token, now, despite the fact that these are white Georgia girls that my great-grandfather wouldn't have allowed to spend the night at our house because he felt like if anything happened to him, he was going to have to account for that. But I don't know how you replicate what we've had years to build. And sometimes I feel like our society is up against that, and so many forces are coming in such a way that seem like are trying to rip apart the progress we've made. And it's going to make that reconciliation process all the more time consuming and difficult. Because what happens, I think we're in a time where we're framing each other as threats as opposed to potential allies, friends, concerned community, brothers, sisters, however you want to see it. And I don't know what's happening, but it seems like there are two forces. One that's saying this can be better, and then something has crept up that seems to be trying to force us to define our camps and stay separate. Yeah, I'm not sure how we fix it, but that's kind of what I see.
I think you're spot on. Mm-hmm. I don't like that term. I don't know why, but I think you're right on it, because in today's world, particularly internationally, all around the world, it's all about division. Mm-hmm. Because people are taking advantage of it, and it's a business. It is giving them a platform to build their agenda. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whatever that agenda is.
Well,
and I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
And it's just like, I'm like, I think I'm naive to that a lot because I don't see it. I just don't, I trust you until I don't trust you.
Understood.
It's not that I don't trust you until I trust you. Mm-hmm. I just like to believe in people, and I've been hurt a lot. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Mm-hmm. I'm a big boy.
Indeed.
I still cry, as you can tell. I get emotional because it is a powerful thing for me. I want it so bad, but it does have to take its time. Just like Clarksdale, it's I thought in the beginning it'd be in 3 years and we'll be doing more than what we're doing today. But what we're doing today is great. Mm-hmm. I have to, it's, again, I'm a Christian, and I'm a believer, and I believe it's in God's time. It's not Bubba's time. It's big God's time. And whatever it is to get there, then we got to persevere. Mm-hmm. And just stay on the mission. That's it.
I often joke that whenever God opens up the feedback on human management committee, I'm going to see if he'll give me a seat on that committee. I have a couple of suggestions, God, if you're open to it, but just let me know if you ever want to hear what I think.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I'm going to say, he's going to say first, Bubba, I got to tell you what, I got to get yours, tell you.
Indeed.
There were many times I wanted to leave Clarksdale, and he wouldn't let me go. I'd go to Oxford, Ole Miss, build over there and do good. And he just shut those doors, and I'd come back. And I said, why did you bring me back to this forsaken place? Mm-hmm. You got my attention.
Indeed.
He did, and I love it. Because it's a very precious gift to be able to go in a community, and I just feel loved, welcomed, and I hope our guests do too. Like, you go to Grandma's House of Pancakes, go to anywhere, go to Red's. You haven't been to Red's yet, have you?
Nope. Mm-mm.
So it's an authentic juke joint, and And the places we send you, you know, we like to tell them, you know, if it doesn't have curb appeal, that's probably the place you want to go to get you a double-fisted burger. Go to Kenoy's. It's out in the country, and because, or Red's, or Grandma's House of Pancakes, you know, they're welcoming you into their home.
Mm-hmm. And
that is a precious gift to be welcomed in somebody's home. They don't have to go clean up, repaint the walls, do anything. If you're their friend, like you come to our house, mm-hmm. you best drop in, because if we got a plan for it, it ain't gonna happen. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But you drop in, I can say, well, would you like to have a sandwich with us tonight? Mm-hmm. Or if we got steaks on the grill, which is rare, but we got steaks on the grill, you know, we're gonna have whatever we have is yours. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to plan for it.
Indeed.
And that's the way I work. My wife and I work, and Clarksdale's like that. So don't go into some place and say, oh, if they would do this, mm-hmm. if mm-hmm. they would clean this or do this, they would get a lot more. It ain't about the business. Mm-hmm. You came to Clarksdale, and this is us, you know.
Here's my last question for you. Whenever you decide that you're ready to retire and leave here, what do you want your legacy to be here?
I don't want a legacy. I don't need a legacy. I don't even know what, you know, I know what a legacy is, but like I told you, I am going to be announcing very soon that I'm running for mayor. Everybody, a lot of people know it. My hope and prayer is that we can just show people here in Clarksdale how valuable they are, how important they are to the world. That, you know, and that they have hope. You know, when I first moved back here, I thought there was a lot of problems, you know, unemployment, health. I mean, you can go down the list, education, mm-hmm. but the real problem is a lack of hope. Mm-hmm. And there are some people that don't even know hope exists. Mm-hmm. And if we can show that, then all this other stuff will take care of itself. If you show people there is a way, and I know how. I mean, I know we got to overcome some of this mindset that is instilled in some people that has gotten them off the track. They're so far in the ditch they can't see up. But if we can show them, because the world is coming here. 60 Minutes did 30 minutes episode on Clarksdale a month ago. I got AAA Explorer, I got International Magazine that got us, we got email, phone calls, but they don't know how special they are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think that if we do that, because, you know, there's a lot of things like, you know, in education, as I told you, I didn't finish freshman year. I might have finished freshman year. I've traveled numerous times, but it wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And I can do things with my hands. I taught myself different things because I have an interest, I have a desire to know. And it was something I read about Einstein. I just love what his sayings. But one of the things he said that I read last week, you know, the problem with education is, or the thing that we think education is, teaching people facts. But we really need to be teaching people to think. That's what education is, how to think. Mm-hmm. So I don't care if you have a high school degree or a college degree. Who are you as a person? Because you are somebody. Mm-hmm. And let's just find out, you know, what is your passion? What is your interest? I don't care if you live in Clarksdale, because I lived here, but my mind was, you know, it was out of the box. And that's why I couldn't conform to the education system, because they wanted me to have a degree. I said, I don't want a degree. I just want to learn. That's what I told my, well, you can't, you got to take this, and this. I don't want that. I want landscape architecture. I want business. You can't do that. I said, why? We're paying you, paying tuition. Mm-hmm. I'm out.
I can see it. You know, as a matter of fact, I read a book some years ago. It was either called The Millionaire Mind or The Millionaire Next Door, one of those.
Millionaire Next Door.
I read both of those, yes. And one of the things it talked about, which I thought was really eye-opening, it talked about the majority of people who have millionaire status, not none of them, but the majority of them don't have more than one degree. And they talked about part of it is
And they wear Timex watches.
yes, and they talked about how the education system teaches you to be in a box and less willing to take risks.
Absolutely.
And as a result of that, the people who seem to do the greatest, most interesting things, follow their hearts, if they have a bachelor's degree, that's usually about it. You know, the multiple degrees beyond that is just usually not where they focus.
And did you know that more successful entrepreneurs have dyslexia?
I did not know that.
And the reason for that, why they're so successful, is because they have to try harder. Mm-hmm. They can't work in the box. Mm-hmm. And you know, when I was first developing property in Clarksdale, if you call it that, limited partnerships was the investment tool to, you know, maneuver through tax codes and all that, and I couldn't find a lawyer around here to get me a prospectus like I wanted. I went and got my series. I went to school for Series 7, and I passed whatever I needed to pass to go to a broker's exam. I didn't want to be a broker. I just want to teach my lawyer how to write the daggone prospectus, and I did.
Wow.
You know, and that was the first time I said, "You're not dumb."
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You can hold your head up, because I said, now I know this.
Mm. Now you won't believe.
And that's what set me apart, because after that, I'm not afraid of failing. Mm-hmm. You know, what Churchill said, you know, or somebody said, you know, failing is not falling down. It's not getting up after you fall down. You got to get up. That's success. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Never give up. That's me. That's, you know.
It's funny you say that. In my very first human resources job, I was responsible for managing all of the stuff, and including making sure people got enrolled in a pension program, blah, 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 blah. And when I got the job, I realized they didn't teach us nothing about pensions in school. I went out and I got my life and health insurance license along with the Series 6, mm-hmm. 26, and 63, mm-hmm. just so that I had the confidence to explain to somebody the difference between a 401k, a 457, a 403, because I felt like you can't be in a job where somebody is going to ask you even surface level questions about something as critical as their retirement and you don't know. But I also couldn't go to my boss and say, Denise, explain it to me, because what I realized soon enough, she didn't know either. So I had to figure it out, and that's the way I figured it out. Never wanted to sell investment instruments, none of that. I wanted the education. I got the licenses just to make sure that I could pass the test, so I felt credible to do the work.
Exactly.
That's exactly why. Mm-hmm.
So you've been around Clarksdale enough here already that you can tell. What do you think a good salary would be, or a good annual income would be here?
I don't know enough about what the housing looks like in this area.
It doesn't look it.
You're funny.
No, I'm just saying, you're 40% poverty rate.
I'm thinking if you were in this area to make a decent salary to take care of yourself, I'm thinking you could probably make it around 40, 45.
Okay. So I hadn't put those numbers yet. I would, you know, I wouldn't disagree with you, but I would say somebody that really wants to feel, you know, I'd say $70,000. Do you know, I believe this, I hadn't tested. If you wanted to make $70,000 and you were good with your hands, all you had to do was be a handyman. Mm-hmm. Show up, be honest, and what I would say is, you have your phone, you have your billing system that you can get off the line. You could probably find one for free and bill it right then. Mm-hmm. Record keeping. You could make $70,000 easy. You can't find any trade. Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, brick mason, we're down to just a few. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, we had the best brick masons in the state. Mm-hmm. They were well known. Mm-hmm. You know, I was building custom homes, all this. If you want to learn something, you can, if you want to do something, you can, you know, because, you know, and I've seen too many news stories. I'm always looking to like Fareed, Zakaria, and all these different things. But, 60 Minutes, you could have a Hispanic couple that they got up at night and went out collecting cans and put their son into college. There are two colleges I know of that you can go for free. Do you know that? For free, not a scholarship. It's the College of the Ozarks, kind of south of Branson, Missouri. They have a lodge there. They teach hospitality, and they have a farm there. In restaurant, they got a killer restaurant. I mean, a beautiful food off the interstate. But they have a farm there that you work on the farm, and I've forgotten how many people in administration, just a few. And also Brea, Kentucky, same type operation for free. There's no excuse if you just know, if you know about it. And, I just think if you have a desire for something, you will find it. I mean, you got to have resources. You got to talk to people. You got to do something. But to say no, I can't do this. I don't. I mean, I know when you got to fold them. So I had to fold them, but persevere.
But one of the things I think about sometimes is how do you teach? How do you expose so that people have a passion or at least a little bit of desire for something else? And I guess I'll share it this way. My great-grandparents are from an area outside of Atlanta. It's Henry County, Hampton, Stockbridge, Griffin, all in there. As a matter of fact, they lived about 10 minutes from the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
That's on the west side of Atlanta, right? Stockbridge.
It's south.
South of Stockbridge is south.
South of Atlanta. You take 75 south and run right through it.
Well, that's where I've seen it. It's going south to Macon.
As a matter of fact, my great-grandparents literally lived about 10 minutes from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. And what it was when I was a kid, it looks very different now than it did then. And one of the things I thought was really interesting, that area, if you drive through there now, you can see where a lot of the older residents are dying, and a lot of their houses, particularly on the black side of town, literally is all grown up around it. No grandkids or whatever wants the property. In a couple of places I went to, it kind of broke my heart because these towns are going to be swallowed up and die and just turn into whatever.
Non-existent.
Exactly. But what I thought was interesting about that, some of the people who live in those towns, in my mind, that's all they know. And I think the only thing that's different perhaps from me versus how some of them, born and raised and make their lives there, is that my first 12 years, I grew up in one of the first ring suburbs right outside the city. Then when my grandparents split up, I spent some time with my great-grandparents. And the difference was, I felt like when I moved in with my great-grandparents, I felt like I was cut off from the opportunity to do
Isolated?
things. Yeah, I felt isolated. For instance, like I went to high school 30, 40 minutes away when I moved in with my great-grandparents.
Wow.
And so if I wanted to stay after school, then it became who's going to pick me up, all of this. I mean, whether it was an after-school program or a job, it was all of these things. And I think had I not grown up, 1 through 12 somewhere else, I think I would have just accepted that. But long story short, I wound up moving. I was about 15, 16. I moved in for a short period with my mom, who still lived in Atlanta. And because I grew up with my grandmama, me and my mama couldn't get along. So I talked my grandmother into signing for a car for me. And I took a job working at Burger King. And then I worked there, and I wound up leaving Burger King, and I worked for the grocery store Kroger. Mm-hmm. And it was just something about having access to a car finally that gave me, I could stay after school, I could be in the band now, I could do this, I could do all of those things. But I wondered sometimes, and I still don't know what precisely made the difference, because I believe in many ways, I don't know, even though I grew up in College Park, if my life was that different from my cousins, but the way we seem to go after things and the way we see things, it just seems like their worldview is so much different from mine. Like, of all of my cousins, I'm the only person who left home. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, you should or you shouldn't, but I don't think it ever even was a remote thought for any of them.
Well,
I have one cousin, and I'm not looking down on this, but she's, I think, about 50 years old, and she's worked her entire career in fast food. And I'm thinking, I don't know how she's made it all this time. And I just wonder, like, what happens to make one person like, okay, this is just my life. And then you have someone else going, I want to kind of figure out something else.
is she happy?
I think so. I wouldn't say she's not. She'd have to tell me she isn't.
Are you happy?
I am. There you go.
My brother, we grew up in the same household, same mother and father. My father died when I was 14, and I think that gave me a lot of independence. I mean, really, I was independent before that. But I really had to, overcome some things because I'm in the Delta. My father didn't farm. He was an entrepreneur. My mother was an entrepreneur, great businesswoman. I didn't hunt. I wasn't, I had these. I was outside the box. I mean, I was doing drugs, and they great Clark them sent me back then. I'm out of the closet now in that regard. I got busted, so But I go. I think that too was like, okay, now you got to deal with this. Deal with it. Survive. You're a survivor. My brother, totally different than me. Totally different. I mean, we share some characteristics. He's 7 years older, but. And he has a love for Clarksdale, even though he doesn't live here. But there's something about it. And, like I've always told my girls, the way I was brought up, nobody's better than you, nobody's worse than you. As far as, are you better than this guy, worse than this guy? Conditions, everything has an impact, it has an impact on you. But, and I know you weren't saying this, but are you better than her, or is she better than you? No. No. Are you happy? Is there anything in your life, talking about your cousin, would you have changed? Would you have really traded places with your cousin? Or are you happy? They could be genuinely happy. There was a street guy that I knew all street people here, which is a few. The name was Tico. Oh, he smelled horrendous, and I let him come into the office, and needed to use the restroom, whatever, and I loved Tico, and I thought one day he was in there and we were visiting. I thought, God, what if I could give him a shower, give him a shave, put him on some clean clothes, and God slapped me across the head and says, you need to respect and love Tico just like he is. And he used to bring, and my girls would be, and I said, that's my buddy Tico, and I introduced him. Well, my wife had a store next door, went to the clothes store, and he used to come in there, and the customers would freak out. Oh, that's Tico, he's our friend. He would bring my kids like a little drum set he'd bring out of the garbage, which was more precious than anything we could have bought them. He gave to them. That's why I like Clarksdale, because we can get to know people. I tell people when they come here, like groups, and I say, we're a third world country in the Delta in the United States. We bring poorest region down and state down to the lower level. I'm not apologizing. I'm just telling you who we are. But people in the city or other places, you have this area too. You're just insulated. We're not insulated here. We don't want to be insulated or separated. We in this together. And and so, I think though what you hit on is exactly what I think as what I could do as mayor, the best thing I can do is maybe just encourage people. You give them a pat on the back, a kind word, that can do great things. Because you don't know what they just dealt with. And we can't fathom how some people live, and not everybody, like I said, we could be brought up in the same household, same parents, but be totally different.
You know what I was thinking as you were talking? I don't know, for me, I I frame it more so, it's not about the whole better thing. And I know that's not what you were saying. For me, what I see with my cousins, I see the perpetual financial struggle. It's not about whether or not they are happy with life. That part, I know in terms of her family and that, I know she's happy. But what I think about is just the constant scuffling.
But you know, but I'll tell you this too. It is so complicated. I think that they get. I've experienced a lot of these things. People wouldn't know it. They don't think it because I have been very blessed. But in my own way, I you know, still I go check to check. But you just get caught up in that cycle, and you can't. You know, you can't think about anything else except the next hurdle, and it's just an hour away. Mm-hmm. You know, if you see, there's a couple of people that I used to stop and try to help here in town. They were trying to get $50. You know why they're trying to get $50? To get a hotel room for them and their kids to be that night here in Clarksdale. Mm-hmm. Every day, I said, "You're paying $1,500." All they see is $50 every day. That's my goal. Mm-hmm. They have no other, they can't think any other way. I said, "You're paying $1,500 a month in rent to live. And you have to change every day." They can't see beyond that because they don't have that luxury of a gap to think. They wake up the next morning, $50. Mm-hmm. You know, where am I going to be tonight? $50. That's it. Mm-hmm. And it suffocates them because it takes all the oxygen out to think, you know, 2 days ahead. Mm-hmm. You know, because if they have $100, then they got to eat too. I mean, you know, it's just always something. Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is people get in a crisis situation, and I'm not saying anybody in particular, but I see people caught up in it, and I was kind of caught up in it. There are adrenaline junkies out there. You know about adrenaline junkies? Mm-hmm. I was on steroids for health reasons, and so it was just I was literally a junkie. But that was the only thing that made me normal. But they thrive off of
the rush of it, I guess.
The rush of problems, the rush of your problems. They just feed off of it, and they're adrenaline junkies. They train their body to thrive off of this high. Like if somebody was a shopaholic or whatever, they get a rush off of this that drives it. I'm not saying that's, but I didn't mean to imply that you know, I do see that about your cousin. It's so multifaceted. It's so, you know, it would be interesting to sit down with her. You know, is there anything in life that you wish was different? Mm-hmm. And that's what I ask people. What's your passion? What do you like? Mm-hmm. You know, if they come apply for a job, they want a job. I say, what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. You know, I know you got to have a job, but what do you want to do? Because that's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I think because God has just blessed me, and why do I want to take this next step? I mean, He put it on my heart because I love what I do. I got the best job in the world, but I have another calling right now. Mm-hmm. It's calling me, and I only got so many more years left as far as I know. Because when I first started in this, it was like in 20 or 30 years, but I can't say that anymore. I don't have that much energy left.
You know, indeed.
I say maybe in 8 years, you know. And if I don't do it now, you know, your time is limited. But that's the way we need to look at life. But you're just an excitement because you can see the passion in you. You can feel it. I felt it in Greece. I said, I wish I'd introduced myself, but I didn't want to step on their deal.
Indeed.
And that's why I go to Grill. Did you go in there to have coffee?
Actually, I went there to talk to Ben and Rebecca.
Okay.
Long story short, what I'm doing with the road tripping and talking to people, I'll take all of these conversations and I'll put together several podcast episodes. And I've been calling my travels the leadership drives. I drive to people to hear the stories about what drives them.